I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, alongside my colleague, Senior Editor Marcus James Dixon, and we're here with the one, the only Gillian Anderson. Gillian, first of all, congratulations on your Emmy nomination, your 6th of your career. How exciting.
Thank you very much. I'm excited. Yes, very exciting.
Can you tell us a little of how you learned about the nomination? Here in LA, we wake up early, we watch the live stream, and then we go. The supporting categories are actually online, so you have to go find them.
Well, I was in London. Was I in London? I wasn't, no. I can't remember where I was, but wherever I was relying on my team to let me know if I'd been nominated or not, because that's usually, I go, I'm not paying any attention. It doesn't matter. I'm not paying any attention. And then either you get ding, 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 ding on your phone, or you just get a couple sporadic ones where you go, okay, that's fine. I don't mind. I don't mind that I haven't been nominated. And I only got one. I got a direct call from one of my agents who told me that, who said that he had not seen my name up there and had gone looking for it in a panic. And he was the first one to call me. So he told me that we were safe.
That would have been horrifying, given, everyone's been talking about this performance and you got all these nominations, and then to not be included would have been, I think there would have been a riot. But anyway.
It wouldn't have been the first time. So true. I have learned in my old age to just let it go. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's not exactly right. That's a very, very good attitude. So I wanted to talk about this performance, obviously. So, as you know, when you're recreating, embodying an iconic real life person like Margaret Thatcher, it's important to sound and look authentic because of our preconceived expectations. So I'm sure this is something that occurred to you straight away when you got the role. What are the challenges of walking the tightrope between mimicry, parody, and also embodying this actual essence of this real person that we all seem to know?
Yeah, it's well, one of the first things that I found very helpful is to kind of leave all of my preconceptions or all of my assumed preconceptions based on other people's apparent perceptions at the door, and kind of start from scratch, because I actually didn't know all that much about her. I knew practically nothing about her childhood or her parents or their religion or, much of anything really that counted. And so, doing that, making a decision to do that, starting from the beginning and just learning about this other human being from the standpoint of her being a human being, as opposed to going backwards, learning about her as Prime Minister, it kind of takes a bit of the pressure off, because you feel like you're learning about a three-dimensional person. And so that's kind of, I guess, how I started, with just, reading and listening and watching and doing as much of all that as I could. And then, with a show like The Crown, you have access to an incredible array of researchers at your disposal. And so they were already sending me stuff, and I could ask them for anything. I could ask them, send me a list of her relationship with all of the cabinet members that are in her, are in this particular time as opposed to this particular time, and what were the, all that kind of stuff. I could ask for that. I could also ask for obscure clips of things that actually were verbatim in the show that it was difficult to find. There were a few things. There was one joke that she tells when she's canvassing, when she's going, when she's at the polls, actually, and she tells a joke about, I don't remember the line exactly, but about the house being thatched. And that was a real joke that she told. And And I knew that I'd seen footage at some point, but it was really difficult for this girl, Victoria Stable, to find, and she found it. And it was like Christmas. It was extraordinary that she was able, and there was a particular, Thatcher was so confident in her sense of humor in that, and so coquettish and playful. And it was quite a unique view into also how enthralled her audience was around her, which you see in many variations throughout her life. I mean, she had people eating out of her hands, particularly men. And so it was just those little things made a huge difference in terms of piecing this person together. Did I answer your question? Sorry, I kind of went.
Definitely did. You definitely did.
Men eating out of her hands. Early in the season, there's a moment where Thatcher is meeting with the Queen, and she kind of balks at the question of whether she'll have women on her cabinet. And then later we see a scene of her cooking food for her all-male cabinet. What were your thoughts on how The Crown explored the PM's relationship with feminism?
Well, I mean, she was very vocal about the fact that she wasn't a feminist, and that she felt very strongly to believe in what would be considered the antithesis of feminist ideas. She made no efforts whatsoever to help women up the ladder, or to, in fact, even in her cabinets over the 11 years she was in power, she only inserted one woman cabinet member in that entire time. And so, I think she had quite a complicated relationship with other powerful women. She knew the effect that she had on men, and I think she felt that she was unique, and that because of her unique background and her unique brain, that she could be the kind of powerful force that she was, but that maybe other women wouldn't be able to live up to what her standards would be, and that it was best that they continue to focus. And if they want to work, they can, but they need to keep their focus also on the home front, because that's equally important. And so I think that from my understanding, it was quite an accurate portrayal of the degree to which she showed while she was in office she related or didn't relate to other women. She was fine having, women secretaries and women underneath her, but I don't believe she felt that she ever found another woman in her sphere that would come close to being able to be in anything like the position that she was in, let alone be in her cabinet.
Recreating this iconic figure, I could imagine there would have been some pressure to get it right from everybody on the cast and on the crew, and of course yourself. Kate Hall, the head of the makeup and hair department, told me that I was expecting her to tell me all about the prosthetics and all this different stuff she used to create. And she said, no, the makeup was a really light touch. This was all Gillian. It was just this great wig. That really surprised me, because that means a lot of the pressure rests on your shoulders. And I'm just wondering, did that really occur to you when you embarked on this journey to play her? And also, what was going through your head to really get into that mindset of to play her properly?
Well, I knew I didn't want to go for prosthetics outright. I had imagined that because her teeth were a thing, that they weren't quite as big a thing as I'm just about to do Eleanor Roosevelt, and her teeth were very much a part of her face. They weren't quite like that with Thatcher, but she was quite, she had quite an overbite. And So we'd initially made up some prosthetic teeth to try out in different forms, and any version, even when we, started extreme and then cut them back and cut them back and cut them back, they never felt right for Thatcher. And so at the end of the day, it was a matter of trying to figure out how to, hold my face more like her than my resting face. And so I guess that wasn't too hard to find after I'd already started to work on her voice. It's not just, I've said this before, which is that you can have the wig and you can have the clothes and you can have the movements and you can have all of that, but if the voice is wrong, you're kind of screwed. So the voice is tantamount, but at the same time, it's the voice and it's the wig and it's the costume and it's the movement, and trying to get all of those working simultaneously, which is a little bit like, patting your and rubbing your, at the end of the day, was what was important to do. And again, they provided the most amazing researchers and experts on both voice and movement to help put that all together.
Yeah, just by way of follow-up, actually, Marcus, sorry, with the voice, that deep, raspy voice and the way she speaks was quite recognizable, but it wasn't just the sound of it, it was also the cadence and her poise and stillness in her demeanor. And I just wonder, to me, it's looked really exhausting because you change your whole frame and your face and your voice and everything's changed. Did you feel that way, that it was a really physically demanding role to play?
Yeah, no, not really. I feel like I've had more physically demanding roles, because there's something about the fact that her voice also was quite breathy, that even though it was low and it sits somewhere in the throat, there's a lot of breath coming through it at the same time. So I don't feel like I was really, sometimes an actor can get into trouble when you spend too much time in your throat because you wear your vocal cords down, and for whatever reason, the voice that I found, and I don't necessarily even think that this was premeditated, was not a challenge on my throat at all. So it didn't feel exhausting in that way. And nor did the holding of the head or the jutting. I think it did. I was doing some ADR recently on sex education, and I knew while I was filming sex education that there were times when I thought, hang on a second, I think I just heard Thatcher in there, because we were shooting that quite soon. Well, no, it was later in the year, but somehow she was still, it was the last character that I'd played. But then when I was watching I was doing ADR, there were a couple of scenes where I thought, she's still in there. She's in there somewhere. Just the way I was holding my face or how I licked my lips or something at one point, I thought, oh man, I didn't work hard enough to get rid of her before I jumped into Jean. It was a completely different character, but still, my resting face was still a little bit Thatch.
She's with you forever. At Gold Derby, we're huge awards nerds, and this award season was like no other. The Golden Globes, SAG, Critics' Choice, it was all virtual. So I'm curious, as somebody who took home a few awards this season, what was it like giving your acceptance speech to a screen and not having your friends and family around you?
It was so bizarre. It was so weird. For the Globes, ostensibly I was alone in a hotel room, except there was a technician, somebody that I didn't know at all, a stranger sitting in the room with me for the whole thing, just in case, because we'd had some technical issues and we were worried that if they actually happened during the thing that I'd be in real, I'd be in trouble. And so, at the same time that I was trying to be all, casual, and here I am, there was this guy in a mask over in the corner watching all of my reactions and everything. It was quite self-conscious. And then, on the one hand, it was amazing. And I got a lot of phone calls and texts from people around the world that I love. And, but then there's a certain point where you hang up and it's like 4 o'clock in the morning and the technician's gone home. I mean, hopefully, and I've eaten, I promise. And I'm alone, and I pre-ordered, I was too nervous to eat beforehand. So I'd pre-ordered some sushi. And I knew that I had to go to sleep. I had to film the next day. But I was so determined to celebrate in some way that I ended up eating sushi for breakfast at like 4:30 in the morning, and then going to sleep at whatever 5 and waking up with a sushi hangover, which is not the wisest thing. I don't think I'll do that again. But so it was, I wouldn't want to repeat that. I mean, I'm very glad that there's a possibility that people will be able to be in the same room, maybe, hopefully.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping everyone will go up if they want to.
You think that's going to be down to us?
Mm-hmm. Maybe like the Oscars. I think so.
Right. Because there were some people that wanted to go to the Oscars that weren't allowed in.
Yeah. So I don't know, like things are getting worse again. But I mean, if it's all okay and possible, will you get some time off your current job and go over to LA? Will that be a possibility?
I'm going to be done in Atlanta by then, so I will be free to jump on a plane and celebrate. I'll celebrate for all of them at one time. How about that? Whether I win or not, I'm going to just celebrate.
I love that.
I think that's a great idea. Every actor chooses an episode or has an episode chosen for them. Your episode for the Emmys is favorites. Was there a reason why you thought that was one of your highlights of the season?
Oh gosh. I think there's a good range in that episode of all aspects, or a good chunk of aspects of Thatcher. I think it shows her in many different situations, and it shows her also, I mean, not that, this is a must for award season, although some people would say that it is, but in dramas to have tears, but just even seeing that Thatcher might shed a tear at all is quite shocking. I think for a lot of people, seeing her vulnerable is new information, and she really was, during that period of time when her son was missing, she could not do it. She could not run the country. Other people were running the country, and that, if you know anything about her, that that was her favorite thing to do, and she thought she was the best person for the job, and she would have continued to do it for another 2 decades after she left office. So, that says a lot about her state of mind during that period of time, that she just couldn't make any decisions. And so I think that episode just feels like it has a good range of her. It sees her, it sees her as a mom, it sees her emotional, it sees her running a country, it sees her yelling at people.
So good. That's one of the highlights.
Gillian, my final question for you is, 24 years ago, you won the Emmy for The X-Files. You dedicated that to your family. You gave a really funny speech where you said, your brother and sister, they're so normal with the celebrity thing. You wanted to shake them and say, don't you know who I am?
Oh, did I say that?
So good.
Yes. If you win again, if you're lucky enough for the crown, who will you dedicate it to this time?
Well, I'll tell you something. I learned my lesson after, what happened was, because I think even at that time there was, as you said, there was a slew of awards. I was very lucky. I won the Globe and the SAG and the Emmy that year. And I suddenly realized that there were all these people that I hadn't, who were important to me that I hadn't thanked. And so I came up with a wise idea of thanking, my family and the gardener and whoever it was, whatever. I think I thanked everybody else in my life. And then, next day I was slightly reprimanded for not mentioning David or Chris or my agents or whatever. And so I was told that I should take out an ad in one of the trades to thank them in apology for not having, today I probably would say, shut up, like, get over yourself. Like, are you kidding me? I've already thanked you 1,001 times, and it's my family's time. Back then I was like, okay, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. But of course, the flip side of that is, regardless of all that, I was still, I owed even being cast as Scully to Chris Carter. That was such a big deal that he, fought for me to be cast, and I couldn't do it without David. So they were right at the same time. But so this time I'll make sure to thank everybody I've ever met, like I think I did during the Globes, just to cover all the bases and do it really, really quickly so that I don't get kicked off the stage.
Yeah, I think you can't go wrong. Just every single person you've ever encountered, and it's covered. You've come such a long way, Gillian. We've been so fortunate to watch your career over the last few decades, actually, which is crazy. I feel like the X-Files was just yesterday. Maybe you don't feel that way, but I certainly do. Yeah, and we want to thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on a really wonderful performance as Margaret Thatcher.
Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it, and thanks for your support.